Ethics Online is committed to making cutting-edge, high-quality and engaging films, specifically designed to stimulate discussion and debate. The DVDs include facilitator packs with lead questions, discussion guides and film transcripts. As you can see from the clips, the films offer a balanced perspective, drawing students into a lively engagement and discussion of current issues.
Must the citizen ever for a moment, or in the least degree, resign his conscience to the legislator? Why has every man a conscience then? I think that we should be men first, and subjects afterward. It is not desirable to cultivate a respect for the law, so much as for the right.
I'm going to drop a 20-megaton bomb right on this great lawn as ground zero. It would vaporize every person out to a radius of 6 miles from here and destroy every building.
In an attempt to stem the brutality and advance a system of laws binding on all people and all nations, 16th century thinkers like the Dutch statesman Hugo Grotius added to Aquinas' just war criteria, so that any violence inflicted by war must be proportionate to the good expected, and war should only be declared after all attempts to resolve the conflict peaceably have been tried, yet failed. And any war declared must have a reasonable chance of success, so that peace can be quickly restored afterwards. Principles that over subsequent centuries have helped shape international and military law and continue to inspire statesmen, legislators and churchmen today.
Since everything in nature is under man's use, man is at liberty to modify it and mold it to the enlarging dominion of his empire. Our aim is to establish the power and dominion of the human race over nature, to force, enslave, constrain, penetrate, dissect, and bind her into service.
So you need to actually properly change everything we do, pretty much, and I don't think that we're prepared to do that, and I don't think that that many people are going to do that.
It's a catch-22. Green living actually costs a lot less, but it means a lot of investment at the beginning. Are we in the right economic environment right now for people to be putting a lot of money in and then saying, well, in 10 years' time it will pay for itself?
Every bird, every humming insect, every sandy shore, and every shining pine needle is sacred and holy to my people. All things are connected. Man did not weave the web of life, he is merely a strand in it. Whatever he does to the web, he does to himself. This we know.
Luke and Rachel are at college together. They are both 17 years old. They have been going out with each other for 6 months. This is their first experience of a serious relationship, although they haven't slept together yet. Luke is very keen to do so because many of his friends say that they have lost their virginity. Although Luke likes Rachel, she is keener on the relationship than he is. Luke decides the only way he'll get Rachel to sleep with him is if he tells her he loves her, even though he doesn't really. Is Luke's action right?
I don't think it's quite a means to an end, because it's not that much of an end, is it? But I don't know. I think it would be all right.
It is a means to an end. He's directly manipulating her for sex, isn't he? He's telling a lie. He's telling her something he doesn't believe because he wants to have sex with her. That's really demeaning. Kant talks about not using people as a means to an end and preserving people's individuality and everyone being equally valuable. And he's completely demeaning her as anything other than he's like demeaning their relationship because he doesn't love her and he's just sort of using her as a sex object.
Surely love is just a word. So if he's acting in a way with her that she believes enough that he loves her, then he's acting in that way for long enough without. So surely just putting a label on that wouldn't make too much of a difference.
Well, it depends. If it means a different thing to him than it does to her, if what he says to her means something different to her than what he means, then he is acting under false pretenses, and making someone do something under false pretenses like that would go against Kantian ethics, I think.
If they both consented to it without having to say, oh, I love you, if they both consented to it, then that's fine. But the fact that he used, by saying, I love you, to get her into bed, that's wrong, because that's using her as a means to an end. Plus, I think women are more vulnerable to, say if a bloke that you've been with for a while said, oh, I love you, women are more likely to believe it than if a woman turned around and said, I love you.
It doesn't matter whether she's 4 days old or 14 days old. A human embryo is a human being. That's just what human beings look like at that age. Well, that's what all of us look like at that age. It's unconscionable to create human embryos for the purpose of experimentation. This is biotech cannibalism, consuming our young for the sake of our own potential prosperity. Before 14 days of development, the embryo doesn't have human form or genetic uniqueness. It's a culture of a growing collection of cells. It's unable to survive outside of the womb, doesn't have any organ structures, including even a primitive brain, and has no degree of cognitive development.
If we follow the logic of the distinction between the pre-14-day embryo from the post-14-day embryo, then abortion after 14 days seems like the destruction of a human being. But this distinction makes us feel very uneasy, leaving a sort of moral mist hanging in the air.
The Stoics of ancient Greece 2,500 years ago regarded the fetus as human only after it first breathed air at birth, while the philosopher Aristotle saw abortion as a possible form of population control.
For the purpose of keeping down numbers, the proper thing to do is to limit family size, and if a child is conceived in excess of the limit set, to induce an abortion before it develops sensation and life. Whether abortion is right or not will depend on whether sensation and life have begun.
No matter what the motive is, the woman is awfully guilty who commits abortion. But oh, thrice guilty is he who drove her to the desperation which impelled her to the crime. When a woman destroys the life of her unborn child, it's evidence that by circumstances she's been very greatly wronged. Simply passing anti-abortion laws only mows off the top of the noxious weed while the root remains.
By the 1930s, although women had won the right to vote and abortion was no longer a capital offence, there was concern about a law that was driving tens of thousands of women underground to have illegal and dangerous procedures. And women's groups called for radical changes in the way they were treated in society.